Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. What day is it? Today is Wednesday. I think I'm live on Instagram. Yeah, it's been a summer and it feels like I haven't been on for a very long time and I've missed all of you. So it's good to be back. I am a little bit sad. I always get a little bit sad after being at a craft school. Those are always wonderful times where you are there just to learn and make friends, and it's a really wonderful experience. And if you haven't had a chance to do it, I encourage you all to do that because it's really lovely. Um, if you're watching, say hello. Maybe say where you're tuning in from. It's always nice to see where people are watching from. And yeah, so today's kind of a little bit of on the fly because when I got back, I got a little case of gout, which sounds weird because we're vegetarians, and usually people who get that are people who are big eaters and people who like to enjoy a beverage a lot, which I'm not either of those now. So, yeah, it's a surprise, but I think it's kind of like a dehydration thing. And yeah, so I have been kind of been literally off my feet for the past couple days, and that's been less than ideal because I've been wanting to get into the studio and use all the fun things that I've learned over the summer. But um, Amy says, "Is it a genetic predisposition?" I don't know, and I don't know if all of you out there are. Familiar with this, but my family has always been kind of secretive about health stuff. Like it's one of those things where people they like to talk about not feeling well, but they don't actually like to say like what exactly was wrong. So there's a lot of unknown factors as far as my family medical history. But I only started a couple years ago, and I think it's also stress related too. Because I was getting ready for bead and button one year, and all of a sudden I had this sharp pain in my foot, and I didn't know what it was. And then upon researching it, I discovered pretty quickly what it was. And luckily, if you catch it early enough and you drink enough water and cherry juice, and there's all kinds of stuff, anti-inflammation stuff, then then you can kind of curb the worst of it. However, when it does hit, and if it hits hard, it's really painful. Um, and I'm not somebody who, um, I'm pretty sturdy in the sense that I have a high pain threshold. But with this, it's almost debilitating. So that's not my favorite. But so I haven't had a chance to jump into the studio as quickly as I would have wanted. However, I always think of things like, you know, if, for example, you're supposed to do something and it rains, then it's kind of like the universe giving you a sign, to like slow up and do something else. So I've kind of been taking it as a sign from the universe to kind of recover from being away and kind of gather my thoughts and make a plan of action. And I kind of feel like this is the time for it. Like I know a lot of people when they talk about like Mercury in retrograde, they talk about how there's all the problems, and that's true to an extent. But I also think that it's also a time to call. That's like a call to look deeper and do some inner work. And so I've been taking the time to kind of make plans for stuff, and Yeah. Amy says, your body is saying that it needs a break. I think so. I do love going to the craft schools and being like out and about and meeting people and experiencing things and learning things. Um, but I do miss being home. So it's been good to be back. But I do miss it. I really do like teaching, and I do like going out into the world and meeting other creative people. So hopefully, I can continue to do that in some capacity. I was really lucky this summer and I applied for a bunch of scholarships, and I thought I'd get maybe like one or two, and I ended up getting six different scholarships this summer. So I was busy, 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 and I didn't want to turn anything down because sometimes if you turn something down, you don't get an opportunity to do it again. And so it's been hard being away, but it's also been pretty good in the sense that I've learned a lot and I've got to make a lot of really wonderful friends and hopefully kind of networked and, build some bridges and things and, get the word out there about the shop and hopefully entice people to come to Johnstown to visit us and come to Ligonier to visit me and William. Suzanne says, hello, feeling better? Um, Better, yes. Fully recovered, no. I'm still a little bit tender. So after this, I'm going to definitely put my feet up um, and drink some more water. Suzanne says, Cinnamon has brought you an undershirt. Oh, I got this one while I was away. So this is, yeah, I always like to, I kind of, it's weird because I go to these craft schools and then I will like get a shirt and then I'll wear it at other craft schools. And I know that that's kind of maybe like a faux pas, but I kind of think of it almost like going to a concert and you like pick up some merch or whatever. So hopefully people don't mind it when I wear a shirt for a different school at another school. But I think it just shows that, that they're all kind of connected and, so there's that. So I got that cool shirt. I also, one of the days, was super cold. So I end up running into town and getting a sweatshirt which then it promptly heated up and then I didn't need the sweatshirt anymore. But I thought it was pretty cool. So at least I have a cool sweatshirt. And yeah, so last week, or maybe the week before last, I was at Touchstone, a Center for Crafts in Farmington, Pennsylvania. And I was working with a wonderful Sandra McEwen, who has a very lovely YouTube presence. So if you want to know more about cloisonne and champlevé, she's got it. There you go on the internet. And definitely, she's very fun teacher, very knowledgeable, and knows a lot about transparent enamels. So I had a really good time there. I don't think I showed any of you. I showed like on my Instagram some of the stuff that I've made, but I don't think I showed all of you out there. So I'm going to do that today. And I also just got back from Snow Farm of Massachusetts, and I took a powder coating class with Bree Flora, who is based out of Cookeville, Tennessee. And I've worked with Bree before. She has a gallery there, and I've actually shown my work in her gallery. And she's actually probably one of the first galleries to show my work who I didn't like know them. Like I've had a couple little shows here and there the past decade with people that I knew, but I didn't really know Bree. And so that was a wonderful delight and kind of has kickstarted a lot of my career lately. I've been having a show every month, and I have a show coming up. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, there's a little town called Tarentum. I'm probably saying that wrong, but there's a gallery called the Manos Gallery, and I have 24 little paintings that will be available and on view at the Manos Gallery, and that opens on September 7th, and it should be fun. We're gonna try to go. And maybe close up the shop early that day so that we both can go pick up some food and some beverages to share. Um, and I think it'll be nice. Brooke is watching. Hi, Brooke. Yeah, if you do feel so inclined to like and share this post, that would be super awesome. Help boost the signals. Though it's probably not going to be as exciting as some of the other lives. I don't know. Maybe it's exciting. I think it's exciting. So while I was away in Massachusetts, which is really lovely, I haven't really spent a ton of time in that section of Massachusetts. And so it was really lovely. And I had a good time. I had a really good time. So I've done powder coating before, but the way that I did it was an electrostatic powder coating, which is more of the traditional way that car people um, do it. So what that entails is you run a current through basically a metal rod, and that creates a static charge on your metal piece. And then you have a gun that shoots air mixed with the powder coat, and it's such a fine kind of particulate that it sticks to the static cling, and then you get a nice super even coat. And I really liked it. I worked with Courtney Powell, who is a wonderful metalsmith out of, excuse me, the Pittsburgh area. And she used to be in Johnstown and is super talented, a wonderful artist, and a wonderful person. And I really wanted to get into it, but I realized two things is that I don't work in large batches. I probably should, but I don't really work in large batches. So the idea of powder coating that way for like one or two pieces kind of defeats the purpose, right? So you go and you do all the setup, you put all the setup, you spray all the powder, it gets everywhere, you do all this stuff, then you have all this cleanup. So I kind of like didn't really fall into doing that. I kind of, I got all this stuff. I fully intend to hopefully maybe one day, use it because we have it. But I never really got into it the way that I should. I even had Courtney come out and help me try to set it up, but we got too busy talking. And by the end of our time together, we didn't get it set up. So, anyways, so I took the class with Bree because I was very interested in the way that she does illustration. Because one of the things that I've been trying to do with my work and all of my work is kind of merge everything together. So there's a point where everything kind of seems like it's going off in its own direction. So this is kind of me corralling things back together. So I am trained in painting and mixed media, and I make jewelry and I do sculpture and I do all these different things. And so this way of like using the illustration on metal and learning about enamel and all of the surface embellishments kind of ties everything back together, right? So that's what my kind of goal is kind of to kind of bring things back around. And it's been really lovely to be doing that. And I feel really lucky to be able to kind of explore these different facets of my creativity. And some things like most things, like you'll do it and some things will resonate with you and some things won't, you know? So for me, it's been a process of kind of finding those things. And I'm coming at this kind of as a non traditional student in the sense that my traditional background is in painting and mixed media, but that was 20 years ago. Not to date myself or anything, but it was a while ago. So I did not get a chance to go to a school for metalsmithing or enameling or anything like that. So these kind of experiences over the summer are kind of my DIY kind of MFA. Um, and it's something that allows me to be able to do that. Because if I kind of like put everything on the back burner and went to get my MFA, um, you know, they're 2 to 3 year programs and we still have a business to run. So that's less than ideal. So I'm not, maybe one day, who knows, maybe I'll win the lotto and I'll be like, oh, I go to school if I want to. Um, and also, I didn't really think that. Um, you know, teaching was going to be necessarily something that I was like going to pursue. And that sounds weird, but like we teach a lot at the store and we teach a lot kind of locally. And I kind of was getting, and the pandemic didn't help. I was getting kind of like a hermit. So I wasn't leaving and I wasn't doing anything, and I was kind of getting more insular. But now that I go out and about and I'm making all these connections and meeting all these people, I'm seeing how much I really do enjoy teaching. I'm actually going to be teaching in October. Me and William, or William and I, are headed down to North Carolina this October, and I'm going to be teaching at Sawtooth, and we're going to do a color on metal exploration station, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot that we're going to do and a lot that we're going to squeeze in. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to finish up some of my samples for the class and start packing. I know that sounds crazy, to be packing 2 months in advance, but you know, I don't want to be mad frantically packing, you know, the night before. Which we probably will be anyways, but as much as I can kind of alleviate, the better. So I'll be going down there and doing that in October, and that's been really lovely. Dale says, "Hi, Andrew, watching from work." Hello, thanks for tuning in. Um, yeah, Susan says, "Hello, Andrew, William, Kitties, Amy, Brooke, and anyone else who I may have missed." Howdy. Yeah, thanks for everybody for watching. So tonight I'm going to be showing you all the things that I've been making lately in the classes. And then maybe I thought I would do a little bit. I don't know if it's going to work or not, um, because when I was away, I had this special tool that I kind of customized, but it wasn't my tool. And it's okay that I customized it. I asked. But because there was a center hole punch that was really old and it had stopped kind of functioning, and somebody had hit it too hard against the steel, like a anvil or whatever, and so it was like super dull. So I ended up sharpening it up a little bit, and I used that to help with sgraffito. And I'll get into that once I show the samples. But I don't know how long I can stay on because the cord that I use to charge my phone while I watch or while I do the lives isn't here. So I don't know where that is. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because we may cut out when my phone dies. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully not, but so yeah, so I just got back from Massachusetts. I was at Snow Farm and I worked with Brief Flora, and it was really lovely. And hopefully you all were well without me. I tuned in a couple times here and there, At one point, I did a little brief kind of little show around the studio at Snow Farm. And if you didn't get a chance to see that, I don't know what day that was, maybe the first day or the second day that I was there. But you can catch the replay on that, and you can see the kind of setup. It's a really cool place. It used to be a farmstead that they bought, and then built the different studios and dormitories. And so uh, some of the classrooms are in old buildings that were original to the property. So, and I think the office where they have the office and there's like a housing in the office, that was one of the oldest buildings in that town. So I thought that was pretty cool. The metal studio that I went to was in a small kind of like house that I guess was maybe a shed at some point. And it's definitely an older building. And it's funny because it kind of reminds me of the cottage because it had the beams overhead. Luckily, at the cottage, the beams are a little bit higher up because I was under a light and I was always getting so hot. And I was like, why am I the only one like sweating sweating a lot? And I realized at the end I was right direct underneath the lights, and it was like radiating on my head. So, anyways, fun time. All right, so I'm gonna flip this around, and we'll get to it. Right? Okay, bear with me one moment as I get adjusted. All right. So hopefully y'all don't see too much junk. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the stuff that I did at Touchstone. So if you don't know, I'm on the board of Touchstone. It's really an honor. I was probably their last elected bunch to get onto the board. The board's a little bit changed now. Where did I put it? Oh, they're in my pocket. So I'm on the board there. If you are so inclined, they're doing a scholarship drive right now. And so any help is much appreciated. Last year there was a 400% increase in scholarship applications, and I think part of that was the fact that they had switched the way that they do scholarships. So there's a program called Slide Room or a website, and so they went on to that. And anyways, so there is definitely a need for scholarship funds at the school. So if you have any funds that you are interested in helping others, I know that I have been a recipient of the scholarships at Touchstone, and that kind of changed my life in a lot of ways. So, that's definitely a good place and thing to do. So if you're able to do it, I encourage you to go on to the website and make a donation for the scholarship fund. I think I'm going to try to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll have an auction or something of some items so that I can contribute. But this is a piece that I made in Sandra McEwen's class, and it's not finished yet, but it's this. This is all fine silver, so it's a little bit of a spendy kind of thing. I need to figure out ways of doing this on the cheap because some of the materials are kind of pricey. So, and I get it. Like if you it's definitely worth it. But as I'm doing this, I have to think about ways of doing it on a budget. So, anyways, here is this piece. And if you want to see kind of the step by step stuff, I did do a Patreon post where I listed out some of the original illustrations that I did, and I showed how I bent the cloisonne wires and then filled it up. So this is ground down. I do need to do a little bit more grinding along the edges of this. And then I'm going to put it in the kiln again, which is kind of nerve wracking for a couple of seconds. And then it kind of re-melts. And then it's like the final firing. So I just need to get kind of more experienced with building up the layers, I think. And yeah, but it was very kind of satisfying to do that. And the other thing that I made in her class is this piece. I globbed it on at the end because we were coming up. I'm pretty slow when it comes to learning. Um, and I've talked a little bit about this before, but I'm not somebody who picks things up very quickly. And I know some people who've been in class, they'll be like, "Oh no, you're very fast." In some things, I'm very quick, but in learning new processes, it takes me a while. And so, anyways, I when I made these, I started off making two of these, but I got the sizes wrong on it, so I had to remake. Like this one, it had a little bit more. Um, it was a smaller design, but um, I'm not a really precise person, so it was kind of a challenge to get all the kind of things all right that was supposed to be. But anyway, so I did this and then I remade the backgrounds. So I made this background and the bigger one. And I'm gonna somehow set this because I did not put a bail on this. This is the counter enamel, so it doesn't crack or whatever, which I think is really pretty. But and then I still need to do a final grind and I need to fill in. There's just this, there's this kind of crown that I need to fill in a little bit more. And then the eye I'm going to fill in. And I think I'm going to insert like a little silver wire out there. So it looks like a little glint in the eye. But I'm excited to see what happens when I grind it down because when you grind it down, it changes. And I did some scribe work on this. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't see it. But there's scribe work inside underneath that I did on this directly on the silver. And so I'm curious to see how that will look once I grind it down and do the final flash fire because it supposedly brings out all those things. So I think this is really cool. It's something that I've always been intrigued by. Like, I've always been intrigued by cloisonne, but it always seemed like this mysterious thing. And it's a super duper fiddly process. There's some people who are like cowboy style about it, and they're like, "Oh, I do what I want. I do what I want." Yeah, sure, okay, whatever. I found that it was very kind of not tedious in a bad way, but it was definitely more tedious. And sometimes things are like that. You have to be able to do tiny things and move tiny things and messing around with tweezers and all that business. So yeah. So there's that. And yeah, I think they turned out good. This is about a week's worth of work. I mean, I did other things as well, but you know, it is a much slower kind of going thing, but also I was learning, so there's that. So this one I still have a little bit more work to do. Both of them I still have work to do, but with this one for sure, I need to do some more work. And I was kind of eager to fix that when I got back, but um, there's that. All right. So next up, I'm going to show you what I did with the powder coating. So the first thing I did, I made a big piece, and this is powder coat. The cool thing about powder coat is that you don't have to do a counter enamel. I mean, it can help, I guess, but you don't have to necessarily. So this is pretty cool, I think. You can get super detailed. Um, and this is nice because it kind of brings out my drawing style and I can play around with it. There are some things that I have to think about when I do my orders of operation. I think I can get more depth in my pieces if I kind of slow down with how much I add per layer and then keep building layers. It's kind of like an oil painting where, if you go all at one, it's all at one. But if you do a layer, let it dry, then do another layer, and kind of glaze in between, sometimes you can get a lot of luminosity. And so I think that's one of those things that I'm just going to have to like slow my roll and get into it. So this is the first piece that I did. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. I think originally what I was thinking about doing is I had just worked on a series that's going to be at the Manos Gallery, called the 24 Mini Show, and there were 6x6. So I was thinking about maybe making this into a piece for that show, but then I was like, no way, I already have a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to redo everything. Um, and it would look weird if there's like one of this and then all the other ones are different. So maybe for a future project, I'll set this onto one of those little mini canvases that I have or panel boards and do that. So I think it turned out pretty good. I was thinking about adding some color, but we'll see. And the other thing that I was thinking about adding is, how, like, when you look at a raven's feathers or a blackbird's feathers, there's kind of an iridescence to them. Um, and so I was thinking about adding some of that to the wings, but we'll see. I think it's a fun new medium for me, and there's some new kind of explorations. It's like anything, but the cool thing about this is that I'm able to take some of my experience with my painting and mixed media that I have been doing for 20 something years, and I can apply that directly into the powder coat process, which I think is pretty fascinating. And I've been doing a lot of experiments on enamel and how to add illustration to enamel. And if you follow the Patreon, you may have seen some of those experiments. I've been trying to get better about documenting everything, even if it's a failure, and sharing it there. I'm catching up on the Patreon since I've been away. Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of experimenting with enameling, and some of those techniques are applicable, especially since enameling, you will put something in the kiln, which is much, much hotter than the toaster oven or oven that you use for powder coating. So, yeah, I think that's pretty cool that I'm able to do that. All right, let's move to the next piece. All right, so here's the next one. Or maybe it was this one. I can't remember. I'll do this one. So, Bree, she also showed us how she does the hydraulic press. And that was pretty cool. Um, and I do like the puffed out shapes. One of the problems I experienced was that sometimes the stuff, if you get it too, I don't know, maybe I added too much clear or too much of the medium, the sticking medium, but stuff would slide around. Um, so this isn't. Like when my original version of this, I loved it. And then I put it in the oven and it kind of got less loving. So it's one of those things I just need to experiment some more. It's not terrible, terrible, but it's definitely one of those things like when I take a class, I'm going to learn a technique and not necessarily produce like works of art, or I shouldn't say works of art, I should say more masterpieces. Like every piece that I did, I learned something from. And I purposely learned stuff from things like I did experiments and I did kind of push the boundaries as far as I could. So this was kind of interesting to be able to do this, and I think it turned out all right. It's not perfect, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Probably it's just going to sit in a box as a sample, but yeah, I do like the idea of this, and I'm going to take this and kind of run with it. I have some different shapes and things that I can experiment with. I do like this puffed. This is a nice, like, I don't know, I like it. So the next piece that I did was this one. And I think this is a better, like, you can see they're getting better. So they're a little bit tidier and cleaner and not as slip sliding. There is a piece, you may notice there's a slight pink to the owl. Um, and that's the ink that I use. So I need to kind of experiment with different inks and see which ones aren't going to cause this. The Sharpies cause this kind of pink halo, which is not terrible if you know that that's what's going to happen. But yeah, so this one I kind of dome, it got kind of flat on the top because I pushed it too hard. Because I haven't used their every kind of hydraulic press is a little bit different, and I'm kind of like attuned to mine. But with this one, yeah, I mean, anyway, so there's this little owl friend that I made, and and then I think the gold turned out better on this one. Like this one, the gold kind of turned dirty. See how that looks so scudgy? Like, I don't know, that looks kind of not great. It looks, when it kind of breaks, like the surface of something breaks. Um, that's kind of what happened on this, I feel like. And so there's other things like metallic silver in there that you can't quite, I mean, you can kind of see it, but it's not perfect. So this one is a little bit better. And then I'll put these here so you can see them all as I'm putting them out. And then I did this one. I tried a different color for the background. I also experimented with adding acrylic paints, and it worked on this. So I consider that a win. So I'm very intrigued by this because the acrylic paints worked. So um, the only problem with this one is that I kind of touched it a lot, and so it's kind of like smudgy in places. So that's less than ideal, but I think there's some successful things in this. And this is another one of the copper that I domed out. And this is really light. I used 24 gauge copper for these pieces, and they're very light, which I like. Because sometimes when you have like some of the processes that I do, it makes the stuff heavy. Like this is smaller, but it weighs more than that because this is I think 18 gauge or 20 gauge fine silver, and there's two layers of it, and then all the enamel and stuff. It gets kind of heavy duty. So this is nice and light and 24 gauge, and it's still pretty sturdy. I mean, part of why it's sturdy is because it is in kind of like a shell form like this. So I think that helps keep the strength. Like arches are really secure shapes because they're very strong because they can distribute the weight. And if you're thinking about this is like an arch in like an infinite number of ways, like there's an arch here, there's arch here, arch here. So this does make it sturdier. So when you do like enamel pieces, they'll ask you to like dome pieces to make it so that they don't flex and move around. Because sometimes with flat pieces, if you're working with enamel, they'll twist. And there's two things about that. So the metal has a memory, and so, if you rolled out or if it's milled like that, then it will want to twist like that. But also because when the metal is cooling, it will also cool at different rates. And so it will twist that way too. Also, there's this thing called coefficient of expansion. And depending on how you layer your enamels or whatever, it can pull on certain, like there's a pulling force on one way and a pulling force on the other, and that will create kind of like a stable shape. That's why they counter enamel pieces, so that you're pulling from both up and from the top and the bottom. And if you add that curved dome shape, you get even more structural rigidity. So it makes it for a much more durable piece that won't have a lot of cracking or warping. With the powder coating, because it's in a dome form, it makes it stronger. Because if it's 24 gauge, I probably could have just folded it with my fingers. But luckily, that dome does help give it strength. Though I don't know, I'll experiment. I'll show you a couple other pieces that I've worked on that are 24 gauge, and didn't have that. Um, I think that turned out pretty cute. All right. And so this piece is another one. I don't know if y'all can tell or not, but I kind of like to work in series. I think it's good for me to work out and work through ideas when I work on multiple variations at once. Sometimes when I do experiments, they're duds, and it just doesn't work. I have a bunch of different experiments that I did with some Conti crayons and things like that, and different mediums, and some of them just failed miserably. Um, but the cool thing about that is I learned from them. So, but I did make, sometimes it can be frustrating in the sense that you spend a lot of time like working on various things, and then sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. But the nice thing is that you also have kind of like a base layer so that you can kind of form a metrics to decide what you can tweak and change to make things better. So working on two things at once that are kind of similar was very helpful, because then I could kind of like pick and choose the things that worked and kind of disregard the things that don't work. And I think that's just a learning technique that I've wanted to do more and more. I'm not a really good sample maker in the sense that some people love to make sample tiles. They just love to do it, and they have like books and books of sample tiles. That's cool, but my brain does not necessarily always function that way. So it's good for me to do this. So I liked that kind of patterning that I did in this one, so I repeated it on that one, and I did it on this kind of minty green, like a pastel green, and I really like that. I think that that kind of has that rich opulent. I think it almost looks like an actual egg, so I kind of like that. And then these ones, I use microns. The pens, the micron pens. This one I did the Sharpie and it had the bleeding, but the Micron pens don't have the bleeding. So I think I'm gonna have to get some more microns. I have some, but I think I'm gonna have to go out and get some more, and then I can do some more fine line work like this. Um, so yeah, so there's those. And then the other thing that I did, I don't have the other one kind of companion piece to this. There's a rabbit that I made. That's if you go back and through my Instagram, I show a picture of it. But somebody that I met 14 years ago at Beaten Button, and I pulled that out of the Etherland because I was like, oh, and you were wearing black and white and you had red glasses. And she pulled her glasses out. She wasn't wearing them, and they're the red ones. And she's like, "You mean these?" And it's like, "Yeah." And she's like, I just got those right before I went to that trip." And it was just a kind of a funny kind of coincidence. But anyways, there's a little rabbit that goes with this one, and it had a pin back soldered on. That's one of the things that Bree showed me is how she does her pin backs, and it worked really well. So I think I'm gonna start doing my pin backs that way for soldering because I had always kind of soldered. You know, it's funny when you work in the same industry and you work with different people and anyways, I always like to see how other people do things because sometimes it changes the way that you do things. And I always think it's good to kind of like learn from those things. The way Bree did it, she actually used her pin as like the solder pick, and it was lovely. It's very quick and very efficient. The way that I was doing it, I was heating up all the piece first, and then like melting the solder and then doing it. But the other way is kind of like a reverse in the sense that you heat up your piece, um, but then you pick up and you use your tweezers to use it to pick up the solder with the pin back, and then you place it until it flows, and it cuts down the time from maybe 5 minutes to like a minute and a half. So any kind of savings like that I'm super interested in, because it's easy to, when you're working, and especially working in a large kind of batch production style, you can lose a lot of time, here and there. You lose 3 minutes, then that adds up. And also material and consumables, like that's a lot of gas that you're kind of wasting if you're doing that. And also the other thing about that is that if you overheat your metal, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it does change the structure of the metal. So for me, I don't want to create products that are going to be like terrible and like falling apart or getting busted up. So or cracking or whatever. And I have definitely overheated metal in the past. So I definitely want to be mindful and be that I'm very demure, very mindful, very classy in the way that I solder so that I am not wasting a lot of fuel. Anyways, I did this. This is a couple different experiments that I did with this. The thing that I experimented with this is I kind of did a flamingo pink color. And then I played with texture, adding raised texture with a clear. And then I also did some dry brushing with paint and some work with some colored pencils. And I think it creates a really kind of luscious surface. Um, and so I'm gonna play more around with that too, because I think this will be a very useful thing. Now, one of the nights, I can't remember which one, but I just wanted to get as experimental as possible. So this does not look like anything that I usually make. Maybe like when I was in like art school or whatever. But so I had a couple different things in my mind. So one thing is that I wanted to see if I could um, powder coat the shape and then form it in the hydraulic press. So I had this shape. It was kind of like this weird kind of amorphous amoeba shape. And then I powder coated it on both sides with this kind of flamingo color. And then I stuck it in the hydraulic press and domed it out. So there's a couple things that happened. One of it got kind of close to the edge, which is fine, whatever. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some micro cracks that happened. And instead of trying to like sand them down and uh, sand them down and stuff, I did something different. So what I did instead is I tried to like play with it and I tried to like overheat things and add more layers of stuff and tried to purposely get the Sharpie to bleed. And it kind of did, but it kind of didn't also. But I played around with some texture and some line work on here. And so this is kind of like a nothing, but it was good for me to experiment. I also experimented with some different kind of color washes. And so I think that was useful. I mean, so sometimes when I do something like a sample like this, it takes a while. So something like this is really quick and I can kind of pump it out and see if that idea is going to work or not. So I think there were some things that I definitely learned from this. I don't have it here with me. I couldn't find it, but I did powder coating on a piece of birch bark that I found, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, and there's a lot of potential in the sense that you can powder coat anything that won't burn at 400 degrees. So as long as it's clean and whatever, you can powder coat pretty much anything, even if it's a little bit dirty. Um, so there's that. So I had these shapes that I made for a thing. I curated a show at the Metal Museum called No Place Like Home, and that was earlier this summer and from in the month of May into the very beginning of June. And so one of the things I did is I started making these like little assemblages of different metal squares and made almost like a quilt. Um, and I made these little houses that were quilts. So one of the things that I do or I like to do before a class, if I can do it, is I'll prep some different blanks before I go to that class. And then that way I'm not like spending all my time just sawing out metal, which I can do in the comfort of my own studio. Um, and I can learn and dive into those techniques. So I had a bunch of these houses left over. So I brought those and I used those as a kind of a series. I also had a bunch of these kind of silhouettes that I have. These ones are kind of the things that I'm most known for in the contemporary jewelry world. They've been in different galleries and museums and at this point. So I made a pin. I don't know. It's just red right now, which I kind of like, just plain. But I definitely can embellish it more if I want to. So there's that. So this is pretty cool. This is powder coated copper, and yeah, it worked out pretty good. I liked it. And then so, but anyway, so I there's a couple other pieces that are missing because I either sold them or donated them. The one that was here is like a is kind of a cream colored rabbit that I just did like a blush pink for the nose and did some quick lines with some graphite and a little bit of embellishment with some Prismacolor. And I like that a lot. But somebody offered me money for it and I needed gas money, so I sold it. So that one's missing, but and there's also another bird, a crown bird kind of in the style that I was doing in Tanya Crane's class, which is kind of a sgraffito style. And that one went to somebody. And then I had an owl that was similar, kind of like to this one, but it was on one of these house shapes. And that one I donated for the second sale for Snow Farm so that they have an annual fundraiser in the month of November. And so, yeah, so I donated a piece to that so that they could have some money for that. So here's one of the sgraffito pieces that I've been working on. And I think it turned out real good. Take a look, y'all. So I have this, and I think it turned out pretty good. So here's a little bunny friend, and I did it with sgraffito. If you don't know what that is, it's a ceramic technique where the clay is then put, there's a layer of other clay put on top, like a thin layer of liquidy kind of clay, a bisque they call. Is that bisque? Slip. It's called slip. And so the slip is put onto the top of the other clay, and then when you carve into it, it creates the line work. It's kind of like ceramic scratchboard. And so when I was in 2 years ago, I can't believe it's 2 years ago, but I took a wonderful workshop with Tanya Crane at Touchstone Center for Craft, and it really changed my life and really opened the doors to how I could add illustration to my work. Um, and so, anyways, the sgraffito technique that she taught us, I kind of adapted in my own way and made it much more narrative. So if you look at Tanya Crane's work, a lot of her work is very mark making oriented. There's a lot of geometry, almost like a textile kind of fabric sensibility to it, and repetition of marks. And so what I did was I took her kind of like technique and put it through my own kind of narrative sensibilities and ended up making a bunch of little scenes and creatures wearing crowns and stuff like that. So with this is done with powder coating, but it's a similar technique, except I did it much more scratchadoodly, which I think turned out. I experimented with some of the mediums that I use. I'm not going to tell what I use just yet because I'm still workshopping this. But if this works and holds out with light fastness, then it's maybe a new technique. I think the cool thing about powder coating is that it is kind of the Wild West, excuse me, in the sense that traditionally it's kind of an industrial process. And now that artists are kind of getting their hands on it and working with it, there's a lot of like exploration of how that material can be used. And so I've been kind of like workshopping and trying out some different things and experimenting with them to kind of figure out my own style and how I can best implement it into my work. I don't like when I take a class, I definitely want to pay homage to the person that I learn from, but I don't want to like duplicate their work. I kind of want to make it my own. So this was kind of my own style and riffed off of what Bree showed us in class. And it kind of builds on stuff that I learned from Tanya and my own work, of course. And so I think it turned out pretty good. What do you all think? Y'all are awfully quiet tonight. But I don't mind. I can talk to myself all day, so it's not gonna hurt my feelings anyways. So the other thing that I did is this one was more of like a drawing to see how well I could turn the surface of the powder coat into a drawing medium. And so I did that and I think it turned out pretty good. I think one thing I would do is I would try to do a different gold. Um, Michelle says, love it, Andrew. Thank you. I would do a different gold so that I can get it a little bit more flashy. Like some of my golds, I maybe like over processed, I think. So they're not as like glitzy as some of the other ones. So I'll have to play around with that a little bit, but I think that turned out pretty good. And then I also was playing around with the different finishes. If you notice, these ones they have a little bit more um, of almost like a wax-like finish. And I worked on some different things, processes, so that I could kind of create that kind of smooth, waxy surface. And I like that a lot. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna continue experimenting with that. And then here's one of the pieces that I think I blew the teacher's mind because she's like, "How'd you do that?" And this is something that I showed William how to do. It's an image transfer that we did on the little tiny houses that we made. William, he took his photos of flowers from the yard and did an image transfer onto the wood, and then we set the wood into some of my collages. So, so I took an old photo that I had a printout, and I did an image transfer, and then embellished it and kind of roughed it up and made it more rustic. But I think this is a pretty cool idea, and it's something that like you can do collage on powder coating, which I think is pretty cool. Um, Suzanne says the bunny, love, love, love. Thank you. Michelle says hi, AG Bead fam. Hello. Suzanne says, looks like my grandfather. Well, maybe it is because I collect old tintypes and daguerreotypes and stuff. And some of it, I know who it is. Some of it, it does not say. So their names are lost to time. So I have bags and bags of photographs of people that I don't know who it is, but I kind of like them. Um, Laura says, I'm so upset, but I'm trying. Wait, I'm so upset, but I'm trying to load the car. So I've got to go. Oh, well, I'm sorry you're upset. Hopefully everything um, works out. I don't know what that is about, but since I love the whimsical element of your work, Andrew. Thank you. Michelle says, I jumped on late, but was listening to Andrew and didn't want to interrupt what he was saying. Never worry about that. I can continue, and I'm well adept at free associating, and so here you go. So I'm going to kind of continue this exploration of powder coating and making it my own, and yeah, I have a lot of cool ideas for how to do that, and I'm gonna see if they work. If they work, I think that'll be great. Um, and I think it'll be cool. Laura says, "Oh, I love the show and tell, and I hate to stop listening live." Oh, okay. Um, well, be safe. I don't want you to get in a problem. Um, this is an image transfer, and I'm going to try some different other um, image transfer techniques to see how they work and how well they kind of work with powder coat. I think that it could be really interesting the way that we do this. And some of the stuff that William does with the dye sublimation, I think might work well with this. And in a way, I think we may be able to um, we may be able to dye sublimate any surface. So I think that's kind of cool, kind of wild and wacky. I don't think it's that wacky, but I think it's neat that there's a lot of possibility about how this can be taken and put one step further. Michelle said, "That's so cool that others already wanted your work right away." Yeah, I had some people, they were kind of upset because they didn't get one of the pieces, and they're like, "I wanted that, and I didn't see any prices." And like it's always nice when you sell work. And definitely our teacher, she had work that she had brought that she had sold. But for me, like I'm just like the student. I don't want to, like I don't know. Anyways, I didn't bring any. I I did not have any intention at all of selling anywhere, and because you don't know if you're going to make anything. And generally speaking, I don't always like to sell my class samples in the sense that sometimes I use them as a frame of reference. So I don't always like to sell the stuff that I made in class because then sometimes I want to look back and be able to like look at it and see it and whatnot. So when they were like fighting over my stuff, I was all kind of like shook. But in a nice way. I think that was really lovely. And people were like, "Oh, I took so many pictures of your stuff." And it was really flattering that they like my work so much. So I think that that's always lovely when that happens because, sometimes you make stuff and people don't respond to it at all. They're like, "What's this hot garbage?" Or they don't say anything at all. So it's nice when people actually resonate with the work. Um, so that was nice. Suzanne said, "So creative. Thank you." All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. All right, so this was kind of the big Mamba Jamba piece of the trip, and it kind of came about all in the last little bit. So when I drove to Massachusetts to go to Snow Farm, when I entered the Berkshires, um, there was a bear on the side of the road, and it was just hanging out and looking at me, and it was so stinking cute. Someone says, "I really like this one." Oh, thank you. So there was this bear and it was so cute. And I was like, wow, this is so lovely. Um, all summer long, I've been experiencing bears. And, it's kind of funny. Like, there was that thing going around about, like, they were asking women if they felt more comfortable being alone in the woods with a man or a bear. And like there was this overwhelming response of people saying bear. And that kind of kickstarted this summer. And when I was out at like Arrowmont, I saw a family of bears and they actually were pretty close. But the campus is in such a way that they have bears all the time. So it's not uncommon. And so there were bears there, and somebody said they saw bears at Touchstone, but I didn't see the bears. I've never seen a bear at Touchstone actually, but apparently they're around. And then at Snow Farm, I didn't see any on campus, but on my drive in, um, I saw a bear kind of chilling on the road and like hanging out and looking at me and stuff. And it was just as the sun was kind of setting and it was lit in this beautiful light. Susan said, "That's funny about the bears. I love to watch bear videos, especially from Katmai, Alaska." I'll have to go and check that out. I know that some of the bears are more like there are some bears that's gonna mess you up, and then there's the bears that's just like chilling. And I like the ones that's just chilling, that's mind their business, and they're not gonna like maul you to death or anything. There's actually I don't know if this happened, I don't know, but there was an artist who went missing recently. His name is Nash Quinn. He went out on his bike and has been missing since July 8th. And he's in an area where there's a lot of like wildlife, or there's certain things. So if you're out in that part of Wyoming, definitely keep an eye out for him. But there's things where they get attacked by animals or whatever. So I think it's good to have a healthy respect for them. And anyway, so not to bring down the energy. Nancy says, almost forgot to tune in, just finished eating. And bear mauling, no fun. Susan says, if I squint, they look like big dogs until I see the claws and teeth. Yeah, so they're no joke. But I think that, I love nature, and I love, animals. And sometimes I like animals more than I like people. And so I can commiserate sometimes with just wanting to be out in the woods. But anyway, so that's when I saw the bear all along the road. And then at some point during my trip, I had to go to the post office to drop off some work for that exhibition that's happening at the Manos Gallery. I brought it with me because I wanted to do one final spray on stuff. And anyway, so I had to go there, and I kicked the top of this. I guess it's maybe snuff. I don't know what this is. Or the chew or dip or whatever they call it. It's something that's like a tobacco like product that people put in their mouth. And I have no experience with it, and I don't want any experience with it. But I kicked it, and then it's kind of like whatever. And then I went in, and then I got into the car, and I thought about it, and I was like, I don't want to litter, or I don't want, there to be litter. So I opened my car door and I picked it up, thinking, just thinking that I didn't want this to be on the ground. And then I started looking at it, and I saw there was a bear on it, and it says "Born to Roam." And then on the back, it says, I don't know if you can see that or not, it says "Untamed in Spirit." William's here.
Hello, everybody.
He's kind of seeing some of this stuff for the first time too.
How's it going?
I don't know. It was pretty quiet in the beginning. Nobody was watching.
Yeah.
Just me talking to myself. That's fine. I'm used to it. So anyway, so I picked this garbage up off the street.
Literal garbage.
And decided to make art out of it. And I don't know if you know this about me or not. Some of you I've known for a very long time, and some of you I've only recently met. And when I first started making jewelry, I did not have any money. I had like $0 to my name and then negative. So a lot of the stuff that I first started making jewelry, I would go to different thrift stores, and this is before the thrift stores in New York basically became fancy boutiques. When I was like, do what? How much is this? I was like, I'm used to like Florida thrift stores where it was like 10 cents, fill up a bag. But anyway, so I used to buy the broken costume jewelry and would take things that I found on the street, because one of the things I used to do when I was kind of stressed out, which was all the time in New York, is go for walks. And I would walk for miles and miles and miles. And I also used to carry a screwdriver in my pocket, just in case I had to, just in case. But also, if I came across anything like super cool, then I would take the hinges off of a cabinet, or if I couldn't carry a piece, or if the furniture was all busted up or whatever, but had a cool kind of like knob or something, I could take it off. So Suzanne says, "Hi, William."
Hello.
So anyways, I used to make stuff out of found objects, and I used to make stuff out of broken jewelry, and I did that for years, and I don't think anybody knows about it. And one of the reasons why nobody knows about it is it was like the early days of digital photography. So I didn't even have a digital camera. One of my friends gave me a digital camera, and I hardly ever used it because I use a disposable camera. I always had a disposable camera with me. And I'm no joke, I don't even know what's on those rolls. I'm kind of scared to try to get them processed. I'd be horrified. We used to have these parties, and I lived in a doll factory, and there was a big empty space, and we would have art shows in it. And we had this thing called Art Monster, and we would have bands play, and it was kind of like my early curatorial direction. And anyway, so we used to leave out disposable cameras, and kind of like how they do at weddings, where they put like a camera on a table, and then you like take snapshots from the wedding or whatever. And so, anyways, there's a bunch of things like that. So I digress. I don't know what I was talking about, but there you go. Oh, I made stuff out of trash. That's how that. But one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to experiment with the hot colors, like the neon colors, to see how they would work. And I also wanted to experiment with powder coating found objects. So powder coat is basically a powdered kind of vinyl resin, and when you put it in an oven or a heat source, it will melt onto the surface. And it's really cool. It's a very versatile product. And it worked. Like, this is powder coated, so it's protected underneath a layer of this this resin, which I think is pretty cool. It also made it less like poppy. I don't know how you call that when it's like bowed out and makes that pop. I was gonna make a pop sound with my mouth, and then my lips are dry. So William did it. I don't know if y'all heard it in the background. So anyways, it made it so it's a little bit more stable and not fall apart and like bendy. So I experimented with playing with the hot neon pink, and then I also experimented with the found object. The other thing that I experimented with, which you can't really see very much, you can kind of see it, is I worked to create this patina on the copper like this. See, and I wanted to see if that would powder coat, and it did. So that was pretty cool. And this is not that. I have to redo the writing because I scratched the heck out of it making this pin back. I don't generally make my own pin backs, and because it's hard. In theory, it's not too bad, but feeding it through all these little tiny channels is kind of a pain in the butt. So I don't think I will be doing this particular pin back again. Maybe, I don't know. I say that now, um but yeah, so it works like that. Look at how springy that business is. I still need to sharpen it, but whoa. That's like the best, like I could do that all day and you would all love it. And be like, show me some more of that pin back. Hey y'all, steel. What? You can powder coat steel. You can powder coat. What y'all doing? Listen, you need to turn the volume off. Oh. Well, here you go. Y'all get enough of that yet? Or no? So, anyway. Let me do a couple more times for you. So I need to sharpen this tip so I can actually use it. But the thing about this is, like, some people, there's a big debate. Who knew there's a debate about pinbacks? But what?
I didn't know.
So some people say you need to sharpen the heck out of it, so it's like razor sharp. And then other people say that you sharpen it till it's like razor sharp, pointy McPointerson, and then you dull it down. And the one person said, well, if it's sharp, then it will go through whatever, right?
That makes sense.
It can go through whatever.
Including your skin.
However, the dull people, the dull team, the team not as pointy. How you call it?
Team Dullards?
No, then they're not dumb. Doesn't that mean dumb?
I don't know. Can that also just mean dull?
Dollar. Anyways, Suzanne says people like me don't wear brooches. Well, you know, you can also hang this from something.
I guess it is only for. It comes from doll from Middle English, but
You can like put a chain on this. I'm not gonna sell this, but you know, there's ways. But anyway, so the team doll point is that if you have a doll point, it will part the fibers that you're pushing through instead of leaving a hole. Instead of cutting the fibers, it pushes them aside in the weave. So you have two schools of thought. So it has to be sharp enough that it'll go through, but dull enough that it doesn't cut the fibers. So you just have to look into your heart and see
what fibers they're going to be wearing.
I guess. I'm kind of on Team Doll side. I mean, you got to push it a little bit more to go through, but
But you're not going to be doing any sewing touch-up work afterwards.
Well, we don't do that anyways, but
Unraveling fibers.
Correct. You know how if you go, you know, I don't. Thank you. You know, I have to sneeze all day, and then I go on the live, and then I'm like, all right, choo choo ka choo. So there's that. So now you know about this debate about pointy pinbacks and not pointy pinbacks. But I do like this. I like this part. I make my own musical. I'm gonna start my own band called the Pinbacks. I also didn't show the flaming yam because I gave that to somebody, and then they gave me a bead as a thank you that they made. And if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, go to my Instagram. That's Andrew Thornton Artist, all one word, all lowercase, and don't forget the N in Thornton. Everybody forgets the N in Thornton. And I'm sure there's stuff on the internet somebody wrote about me, and I don't know what it is because they spelled my last name wrong. Even the gallery that I'm showing at spelled my name wrong on the postcard. That's fine. I'm not salty at all. All right. So now that you have seen this, what did you work on, William?
I did glazing today.
Did you make any pots?
I didn't make anything. I finished glazing things I've already made.
Oh.
And I had more pendants, but we didn't get in the last bisque fire. So they're going to come in this weekend's bisque fire.
That's exciting. I need to make some new illustrations for you so you're not.
I know, so I'm doing the same old things all the time.
I'm going to get bored to tears.
Same Nessie, that same.
Oh, but I do have some Nessies coming for y'all. Michelle says that sounds like it tears the fibers instead of going right through. See there. See, now you're a part of the debate, the great debate. That's William. That's not me talking. So we'll see if this works or not. So I've got this, and I put a ground onto this powder coat which in the background is like a cream color. And then I have this tool that I stole from William. Yeah, yes, I don't know. We'll see.
Gotta tell people, let them know we're doing a project now.
Well, whatever. We're just gonna go with it.
You need a light on?
No, I was looking for a pencil.
A pencil?
Oh. This sharp?
They should be. I think they come. Oh, they don't come sharpened.
That's all right. There's a bunch of them downstairs. That may work. All right, we'll go with it. There's this red pencil.
I can go get one downstairs.
So I'm just gonna sketch lightly. This could be cool. This could be the new thing.
Mechanical pencil.
It's already too late.
It's too late.
So I'm just gonna sketch it. Y'all can't see the business.
You're gonna need a light.
I was gonna say another word, but I didn't.
You withheld.
Correct.
I don't know if that's any better.
I don't know. Y'all can just imagine with your minds.
I'm gonna let you do your project. I think I'm interrupted.
You can stay.
I was gonna go play with the kids.
Oh, so just ignore me then. That's all right. Whatever you want.
I thought I was interrupting you.
So here we go. I'm just drawing this out, sketching with this red pencil. Is this a correction pencil?
I don't know what it is. It's from my
What is this? Cool Erase. I kind of like it. Carmine red.
It's from my grandmother. It's probably from like the 80s.
That's cool. So I'm just sketching. When I'm sketching, generally I like to have a reference. However, I've drawn so many of these owls that I can probably do it in my sleep time. And then that's fine. I like that. And so I'm just sketching on here. I don't know if this is actually going to work or not because I had this tool. I'm trying to find this. There's a thing called a Starrett punch, center punch, and I'm going to try to track one down. I like it because it's kind of bulky in this part, so it doesn't hurt your hands. Because I have a scribe that's real skinny, and it hurts my hands. It's like my hands go like burn with hellfire because I'm all like gripping it so hard. And this is not too bad because it's got a little bit of girth to it, and I can get in there. But I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna try not to create a shadow so y'all can't see anything. Let me see if this helps. No, it's gonna knock onto the phone. All right, let's see. Oh, it works. Ooh. So I'm just scratching away. Now we're gonna do this for a couple hours. I hope not. Won't be like, there's only 3 of you to watch anyway. All 3 are gonna get bored to tears, and then be like, "I want my money back," and say, "Y'all didn't pay any money for this. It's free." So I am gonna make a mess. That's fine. So I'm just scratching away. Dale says, "I'm still listening while I work." Oh, good. It's gonna be me and Dale. So one of the things that I experimented while I was in Bree's class is the different substrates that I could use for this process. And it was kind of interesting to see what worked and what didn't work. There were things that I thought would work that definitely did not work. And I found that when they were, see, this is already hurting my hand, y'all. So I need to get, a tip that I'm going to give y'all. This one's free of charge, and I'm going off script. Is you get that stuff called vet wrap. It's for them when the dog or the cat gets into like a fight, and then you need to like wrap the bandage on it. It doesn't stick to the hair, it just sticks to itself. Get that and bulk this business up. So you get a big like Jumbotron style, like you got the double stuffed Oreo, and then you use that and then you can draw with it and it's not gonna hurt your hand. But this business already, I'm like, ooh, like this. That meat right there. That's the one somebody need to do acupuncture on it later for me. So Michelle says she's watching. All right, so I'm just gonna scratch that business. So, anyways, what was I talking about? I don't know. Oh, I was talking about different things that worked and different didn't work. So there are things that I thought would work very well, and there are things that did not work at all. I found that the more waxy something was, the less it would scratch. I also found some of the things would chip. So this is kind of a thing where, this is not a technique that she taught me. This is something that I kind of came up with on my own. And it's something that you kind of have to like, it's like something that's new. So you can't like Google it. So that's one of the things. Michelle says, "Is that the tool you were asking about?" No, it's one that I stole from William. I stole this from him, and it's a ceramic tool. It comes in a pack, and it comes like this. Then you get all the tools. And I got this, but the one that I had used, it was an old center punch that I kind of sharpened the end a little bit, and then that way it was nice. But anyways, so I'm just gonna keep on scratching away and kind of doodling. I do think there's like one of the things that you can't really that happens when you do this technique is that when you remove it, you just kind of have to run with it because you can't add more. I guess maybe you could, but once you scratch it away, it's scratched, it's in there. So you kind of just have to roll with it. I work in a very loose style, so it works for me. There are some people who work in a much more precise, kind of tidy way. I don't. So a lot of times when I'm drawing, I start with a very loose, like I start with a shape that's very general, and then I work to the specifics. So what that means is that like I'll start scribbling on something, and that's just like I'm roughing out the shape. It's not because I'm trying to be like artsy or whatever. It's because I'm finding the shape within the shapes. All right, so I'm gonna add some more details up here. And the other thing that I'm thinking about when I'm adding these lines is I'm going with the contours of the shapes. So if I want this to have the illusion that this is like a rounded shape, I'm gonna kind of go in a rounded way. I don't want that to look, if I use straight lines, it's gonna look flat. But if I use the kind of curvy lines, it's gonna look kind of like, it's kind of got a little something, something in there. All right. I'm going to go back over there and add some more kind of defined elements. So I'm wiping down every once in a while so that I can see what I'm doing. But this pencil is nice because it's real subtle. I wonder if that's going to be added into the surface of it. I don't know. We'll find out, right? And then I'm just scratch boarding this basically. And there's a bunch of ideas that I've been thinking about as well. There's a technique called silver point. And it's basically where you take and you polish up a fine silver scribe, and then you draw on black paper, and it will make the silver residue will kind of create this kind of ghostly line. I don't know. Yeah, that's what it is. And so I've got that. And then I'm going to I'm going to follow some of those shapes that I kind of roughed out. And again, you kind of have to just like go with it. Because if you try to like force it against the way that it wants to move, it's gonna sometimes maybe not do what you want. And so you kind of have to think in reverse in some ways, where like the lighter feather or the lighter colors happen from when you're scratching more. So when you're moving material away, you're creating bright spots. And generally speaking, bright spots go forward and darks recede. So if you want to play with the illusion of depth, for example, for underneath these feathers right here, if you want these to pop out, this will be brighter and this will be darker. So I want to definitely scratch away here, in here, in here, and in here on the tips of the feathers, because that's where it's going to get the illusion of depth. Now, I don't want it to be like too much depth, in the sense that, let me see if that, it may actually look better if I don't have any lights. Is that better with or without the lights? Let me try this one. I think it might be better without the light. I don't know. You tell me. Is it better with the lights on or without? So this does have a scratchy sound that may not be for everybody. I don't mind it. And so there you go. And the cool thing is that once I'm finished, I can bake this in, and it's going to become solid. Like it's going to be, there's not going to be, it's going to be there. It's going to be baked in. And then I can add a top coat on this, and it's going to be forever. It's not going to go anywhere. So I think that this is a kind of a cool way of doing this. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of go about getting these textures with the powder coat, but this is the way that I've kind of been experimenting. And I've always been kind of like fascinated with processes like scrimshaw and different techniques like that. So this is pretty cool because it's like a modern interpretation of it. It's not something that they did back in the day, but it takes some of those traditional like hand skills, and then you can kind of modernize them. Because powder coating is a relatively new material. I mean, it's been used in manufacturing for a while, but for art purposes, it's relatively new. Maybe the past decade or two. I don't know. I'll have to look up when did powder coating start. But I'm just kind of going and adding some details. And I'm going to go kind of on the outside and sharpen up some of those lines. Michelle said, then you paint it for even more depth. I could. I think I'm going to do like this, where I don't know. I kind of like this kind of stark look, but I don't know. I kind of like this kind of scratchy look. So William says around 1945 powder coating began. I don't believe it. Somebody, I don't know. Well, it's taken since 1945 for me to find this. So here we go. So I also, if you, like I said earlier, if you have a reference material, I think that's always good to have on hand. Michelle says on cars. I don't know. It's used for all kinds of stuff, like a lot of industrial processes, places that you can get the pigments, the powders. Usually sell them to people who are doing stuff for cars and things like that, and tooling. And so here's this. Because I am who I am, I'm gonna make this like, I'm gonna put a crown on it. And then I'll go back over this in certain areas and really scratch the heck out of it to make it even more. The thing is that sometimes you can overdo it, and I don't want to overdo it. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I can always start over. I can always begin again if you mess up. Nothing is final. But so I have a couple people watching on Instagram. Thank you for watching on Instagram and wherever you're watching. Thanks for watching at all. I know there's a lot of choices out there, and sometimes you're like, oh, here he goes again. So I appreciate all of you and the hashtag AG Bead fam who tune in and watch with us and keep us going. Generally speaking, I probably should have had something for sale, but I'm not ready for that yet. Since we are changing our business model a little bit in the sense that we have to have these live sales every weekday to keep going. So, Michelle says, I love watching this kind of stuff. Well, good. So, I'm trying to balance how we do these lives so that there is some instruction and like things of inspiration or stuff that I'm excited about. learning or showing or my process, but also about like balancing it out. William says it's good to have educational nights sometimes. I hope people like it, you know. Some people I know they just want the beads, and then some people they want like the education only, and then some people want feet pictures, or I don't know what they want. But so here I am. I'm gonna make. Suzanne says, "Good to have a day without active selling." Yeah, I agree, but sometimes like I notice like when I go on, sometimes it's like 3 people watching, and I don't mind. I know some people watch on the replay, but sometimes it's like, what is going on? And so, you know, I'm trying to balance things out for y'all so you don't get bored with us. I don't want to get to the point where we like overdo it with the sales. Suzanne says I had to leave to eat dinner. Yeah, that's another thing. People have been saying that like the time is a little bit like it's a little bit too late for them sometimes. So we'll see. I don't know. We did experiment recently with going back to 5:30. I think William did like one, and it did not do well. So here is kind of the scratched out owl with a crown. I think I need to add some background. So I'm just gonna do one of these. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, like, you know, as we kind of navigate the new space and how the pandemic has kind of changed our business model. And it is something that, you know, has changed a lot. And then there's things like I never really thought that I'd be considering doing like festivals or outdoor things, but I'm kind of considering it. Um, and also, when you're working on this, it's good to do hand stretches. I know you can't really see them because I'm doing them off camera, but I think it's good to always kind of stretch while you're working so that you don't get too like crunched up. But yeah, we've been thinking about different ways that we can, you know, generate extra money and keep going. Um, so it's just one of those things that we've been thinking about different ways to supplement. I think once we get like the casting stuff off the ground and you know, if I keep showing my work and keep getting my name out there, I think that that will help also. I was really lucky this past week, and our New York City Jewelry Week featured my work, and they did like a tour of the U.S. And for Pennsylvania, they picked me and 2 other artists, which you know, there's thousands of other art jewelry makers in Pennsylvania, and they picked me. And I've definitely seen an uptick in the people who like my posts on like Instagram. Um, and I've been really trying to grow my Instagram because it's just, you know, another place that I can share work and, It's something that I can stay connected with people. And I like Instagram. I love Facebook for, it's kind of like our bread and butter. But I will say that sometimes with election stuff, it gets a little bit overwhelming for me. And there is that on Instagram too. But I think it's kind of like not as much. At least I don't know. I see more people making stuff on Instagram, and so I feel more kind of like at home sharing there. I don't know. I'm free associating, which is fine. But I don't know. What do y'all like? Do you like Instagram? I like it. I'm trying to grow it out so that we're not all just. Michelle said, "Oh yes, I do that with bead weaving. Take mini breaks and stretching. It's also good. I found to put something far away on like the furthest part of the wall, and then you can kind of check and try to read whatever's written. One thing I will say about that is pick something that you can change the words because your brain does a thing. It's a weird kind of fill in the gap thing. So if you one of the people who's like an optometrist, they were talking about this. They were saying that some of the people they thought they had better vision than they actually did because they had subconsciously memorized the charts that they had been using to test their eyes. So when they're like, "What letters do you see?" and then they would be like, "O, P, N, Z, W." It's because they memorize the chart. So if you can change up the words, like if you have like an inspirational quote calendar or something that's like a day by day or whatever, that's really good because then you can try to focus your eyes and you're not actually just like memorizing the same thing over and over. So that's another little. Dale says, I can only handle one social media platform. Yeah. There's a thing called Kara and it's just for artists. But I don't know. I don't really see anybody using it. So I don't know if I'm gonna post there anymore. I'm on there, but like I said, I don't know. I feel you. There's just too much stuff going on. But I do like sometimes I just get tired of like people fighting. I don't like the fighting. Um, I guess I'm getting to the point where I don't necessarily, I'm not conflict averse. Like, there are people who I know who, even the idea of being engaged in some kind of conflict, they're just like, they can't, their brain cannot process it. I'm not really one of those people. I mean, I grew up in a household where my parents, they argued a lot. That's how they talked to each other. They didn't really have that way, they didn't have gentle speak. They had hard speak everything. And so there was always conflict, 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 conflict. And so I was raised with that. So that's kind of like what I knew. So I'm not averse to conflict. However, I'm getting to the point where I don't necessarily like it. So I may not be averse to it, but I don't actually like want to like seek it out. And so there's people like they're like fighting so hard in some of those like social groups, like the forums that I'm in, and I'm just like I just can't deal with it. It's just too much like bickering over nothing and people just like fighting to fight. And like I get wanting to be heard, a lot of times we're in this society particularly we're put into these kind of situations where we're not allowed to express ourselves. We're not allowed to feel what we want to feel. We can't say what we want to say. And so now that people have this like democratization of a platform, it's kind of like open season. And I think that that has like good things and bad things. Some of the good things is like, a lot of marginalized people did not have a platform to share their stories. And so there was a lot of stuff that was lost because, you know, if you were not, you know, white, cisgender, or whatever, then your stories were kind of swept under the rug, um, and or appropriated. And, you know, that's like such a common thing that happened for years and years and years. And then, now I'm just gonna give you two little tips before I continue with my diatribe about social media and whatever. Is I've got when I'm bracing my hand, I've got different points where I'm bracing it, and I'm also bracing the piece. So there's at least 3 points. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm bracing it. And that way I have the most control over the work. I'm also slightly angling it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it helps, so that it's not moving around, because that's when you get the wild lines. And then also, um, yeah. So, anyways, back to my diatribe. So I feel like, you know, there's a lot of really good things about social media. It connects people who otherwise would not be connected. Like a lot of you out there, um, Amy says, I work my algorithms to mostly cats and food content on both. Yeah, that's great. Most of mine are cats. You know, I know like there's a lot of like controversy about AI, but I love AI cats doing chores. Um, I am just delighted by it. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, oh, look at this cat doing the dishes. And I know it's not real. I know there's like ethical questions about it, but I'm just so delighted by the cats doing chores. It's like that show Old Enough. Do y'all ever watch that? They have it on Netflix. It's a show from Japan. And then they send the little kids out and they do like chores and stuff. And they have to like go and get the milk and like drop something off. And like, they send them on pretty, like, I'd be tired. You know, they're like, they walk 10 kilometers to the grocery store and drop by daddy's on the way. Um, and, Yeah. So, anyways, I adore that show because it's like they're like helping and contributing and stuff. And I like to think that if my cats had thumbs, that they would too. Probably not, but one can hope. Michelle says lots of beating stuff on your algorithm. I get a fair good amount. But I also get people complaining about beating stuff, like bead world stuff. There's always something going on. And, you know, there's a lot of times people are like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't really have an opinion about this. And I think a lot of times people are put into a position where they have to have opinions about stuff. And, like, I don't know. I think it's okay not to have an opinion on things. Like sometimes there's things like it doesn't affect me, so why do I have to care about it? And it's not in the sense that I don't really care about. It's not that I don't care about them, what other people care about. It's the sense that you know, it's like I don't need to have, you know, I don't need to be an expert on this random thing that somebody else is doing that affects their life but does not affect mine. So I want to support them to be able to do what they want to do, but at the same time, like, you know, I have to let them do it. Let me see right there. There's a little bit of a Suzanne says I like the cat making dessert. Me too. And they need to do one with the little cat beading or making jewelry. I love that. I'll put that on repeat. So that sound may not be for everyone. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know. I like this. Amy says unnecessary drama in the bead world. Yeah, there and sometimes there needs to be, there needs to be some stuff. There's things that I don't like at all, and people just give it like a go, and they're just like they just let it happen. But I'm getting to the point where I realize I can only change so much. And if I want to lead, if I want to like make real change, I have to lead by example and try to live the best life I can. But sometimes it's like there's like things, man. And I don't know. I'm trying not to get into it so I don't get blacklisted again. But you know, one of them things where you get any group of people together and it gets wild. But for the most part, I like social media. I think it's a nice way to stay in contact with people. I know for our business, if we didn't have social media, we could not have survived the pandemic. We probably could not have survived at all. And part of that is because we've always having a bead store is hard. I saw somebody they're doing their retirement now. They're dealing with stuff and it's just hard, hard, hard for them. And it's like, I get it. We know what it's like to be in a situation like this. And we've made changes to our lives, definitely 100% to make it so that we're having a little less. I mean, it's not completely stress free yet. We need to get the Johnstown location to like take off a little bit better. I mean, we're working hard, getting stuff in, but it's one of those things that's going to take time. It took us years and years before people who lived 2 blocks away in Ligonier knew that we were even in business. So it's just going to take time for us to rebuild our business in a new town. We've been lucky, though, that there have been a lot of people who have kind of followed us from the old location. Amy said that made Zoom classes less enjoyable. What is it? I forgot. Me mouthing off. I don't know what's happening. You gotta fill me in, maybe. DM me. What y'all think? Y'all like it? Owl from? Y'all like that business? So when I get so this is a finished one. Son said yes. My hand is cramping up, so I probably won't be doing more on this tonight. Yeah, I think there's a couple spots like here. I'm not super 100% about. Let me see if I can fix that. That's better. Michelle says, yes, I really do love it. Maybelline Perry says, nice work, Andrew. It's nice to see you create live. Yeah, I'm happy. That's another thing. We've been talking about doing more educational stuff again. We just have to find out the right balance, like not over inundating everybody And also making it so that we can still like make a living. So that's always the conundrum, right? Like, how do you offer all the fun stuff but still be able to afford it? Win the lotto, maybe. We'll manifest it. You're gonna manifest all that abundance so that we can just have fun and make stuff and not have to worry. I think that looks a little bit better. I mean, whatever. And I think also I could take and go in and like detail some stuff up. So if I did have any lines or something that I don't really like, I don't know if this has any juice in it or not, but I can always go in and darken that up a little bit. And just kind of outline it a little bit. Give it a little bit more sense of depth. And then if I have a regular pencil, I can always do a little bit of shading maybe. And then also kind of, I don't know, we'll see. I'll see what I can do, y'all. All right. Well, my phone is about to die. So I think that's nature's way of saying that it is now time to get off the TV. I've had a lovely time hanging out with y'all and sharing the stuff that I've been up to. Hopefully, y'all have enjoyed seeing what I've been making. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow with some more goodies. I don't know what we're gonna get into. I had an idea, and I don't know if y'all are gonna like it, but I was thinking about doing this thing called True Colors, and then every day will be a different color, and then we'll have different things from that are all that like color coordinated. So, like we'll have a red day and an orange day. Maybe we'll have to combine like orange and yellow because I don't know if I have a lot of like orange and yellow stuff, but and then maybe we'll do like a project in that color or do something. I don't know. Just thinking of ways to keep things fresh, so y'all don't get bored of us. So we don't disappear into the nether regions, and maybe not the nether regions because that has a different implication, but I'm talking about I don't want to. I don't know. I said that I couldn't get a real job, but I probably could. I'd like to get maybe arts administrator job. Who knows? But I'll play around with this a little bit more, and then how about y'all tune in on my Facebook, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow on Instagram stories or something, and show you how this looks when it's all finished. All right. Okay. Well, I will see y'all later. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And hopefully, you all had a fun time. And we'll be back tomorrow. All right. See ya.